A humble boy in Singapore just wanted to check his bank balance. The millionaire scoffed openly, but as the numbers blazed on the screen, their laughter froze, and the sudden silence unveiled a truth no one anticipated. The quietude within Merlion Financial Plaza was the expensive kind of silence, heavy with the scent of freshly minted money and varnished ambition. LED lights ricocheted off the polished marble floors, casting reflections that seemed to judge anyone who didn't belong to this world. Matthias clutched the strap of his worn backpack. His fingers trembled, not from the chill of the air conditioning, but from that explosive blend of determination and fear known only to those forced to grow up too fast. "I just want to check my balance," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. The phrase would be etched into his memory forever, for what was about to unfold would not only change his life, but the lives of everyone present in that opulent space. The morning had begun as usual. Matthias woke before dawn in the cramped HDB flat room he shared with his ma. The faint aroma of weak copio and stale kaya toast filled the air. There was no complaint in his eyes, only a stubborn light, that resilient glow possessed by those who refuse to yield, no matter how many times life knocks them down. "You're off, my child?" Ma's voice was fragile, like tissue paper about to tear. "Yes, Ma. I have something important to do today. Be careful. The world outside..." "I know." Matthias kissed her wrinkled forehead. "I'll be back soon." He carefully tucked the yellow envelope into his backpack. He had guarded it for weeks as if it were treasure, because it was. It was the slender thread separating hope from despair. The public bus carried him to the city center. As he gazed out the window, he recalled the words of Uncle Thomas, the old hawker from the market, who had changed everything weeks ago. "Matthias? Still selling sweets?" The boy had nodded, displaying his small box of chocolates. "Listen, boy, there's a better way to help your ma, but you need to be brave." Uncle Thomas had given him a slip of paper with an address and an account number. "This belonged to your grandfather. They never told you because they thought you were too young, but I know you have the heart of a man." Matthias had felt the ground shift beneath his feet. "My grandfather? But he died years ago." "I know. He was my best friend, and before he left, he made me promise something. That when you saw with your own eyes how hard life can be, I would give you this. That time has come, hasn't it?" Tears had streamed down Matthias's cheeks as he nodded, and now he stood there, before the gleaming glass doors of Merlion Financial Plaza. The building loomed like a giant of steel and glass, designed to intimidate the small. He took a deep breath and entered. The security officer, Mr. Kumar, eyed him from head to toe. His gaze wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It was the look of someone accustomed to categorizing people in 2 seconds. "Are you with an adult?" he asked in a neutral voice. "I'm alone. I need to check an account." Mr. Kumar raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. With a gesture, he directed him to the waiting queue. The main hall was bustling. Executives scrolled on their phones. Ladies with designer bags sighed impatiently, and Matthias, with his patched backpack, stood out like a stain on a white suit. Glances pierced him, some with curiosity, others with barely disguised disdain. "You don't belong here," those looks seemed to scream. "Leave before you make a fool of yourself." But Matthias clutched the yellow envelope to his chest and stood his ground. Then, the main door swung open with a resounding thud of manufactured importance. Mr. Raymond Tan entered as if the bank had been built specifically for him. His presence filled the space in an almost grotesque manner. 2 female executives trailed him, laughing at his comments with that professional chuckle learned in business schools. "Miss Wong," he boomed towards the management area. "Are you still making me wait like a common customer?" The manager, Miss Wong, emerged from her office with a diplomatic smile. "Mr. Tan, what a surprise. We didn't have your visit scheduled." "Money never schedules, my dear. Money simply arrives." Another booming laugh. His executives repeated it like trained echoes. Matthias watched everything from his place in the queue. There was something in the man's swagger that churned his stomach. It was arrogance personified, the certainty that the world owed him reverence. Mr. Tan approached the main counter, utterly ignoring the queue. No one protested, no one dared. Then his eyes fell upon Matthias. "What do we have here?" he said loudly, pointing at him with a theatrical gesture. "Does the bank now accept school field trips?" Some nervous titters rippled among the patrons. Matthias felt a flush rise to his face, but held his gaze firm. "I'm here for a transaction, sir." "A transaction?" Mr. Tan stepped closer. His smile was that of a cat toying with a mouse. "And what kind of transaction could someone like you have in a bank like this?" The venom in the word "you" was impossible to ignore. "Miss Wang intervened with a professional but tense voice. Mr. Tan, all customers deserve… Customer? He interrupted with another laugh. Look, kid, this isn't a piggy bank. Millions move here, not pocket change from sweets. The verbal blow resonated in the sudden silence of the bank. Matthias felt something crack in his chest, but it wasn't tears that threatened to surface. It was something stronger. It was dignity. I just want to check my balance, he said in a clear voice, pulling out the yellow envelope. I have all the documents. Mr. Tan took the envelope with 2 fingers, as if it were refuse, and opened it with studied disdain. He read the first line, then the second. His smile widened, growing crueler. Account number 4, Tazin, 58219673301. He read aloud. Do you know what kind of old accounts have those numbers? Matthias didn't respond. His heart pounded so hard he thought everyone could hear it. Abandoned accounts. Closed. Forgotten. Mr. Tan handed the envelope back with a dismissive gesture. Someone surely played a trick on you. Or worse, they're scamming you. Go home, kid. This is no place for delusions. The executives laughed again. Miss. Wang looked away, uncomfortable, but didn't intervene. Mr. Kumar, the guard, took a step forward. His expression had shifted. There was something in his eyes, pity, respect. It was hard to tell, but Matthias didn't move. I want to verify it, he insisted, his voice now stronger. I have a right to know. Right? Mr. Tan turned to Miss Wang. Are you going to keep allowing this circus? Miss Wang sighed, looked at Matthias, then at the papers he held with trembling but firm hands, and something in her professional expression subtly fractured. He has the right to verify any account with proper documentation, she finally said. Oh, please. Mr. Tan crossed his arms. Fine. I want to see this. I want to see this boy's face when he discovers there are only zeros, or worse, that the account doesn't even exist. He leaned against the counter with the air of someone about to enjoy a show. Go on, boy, show us your fortune. Miss Wang extended her hand. Matthias, carefully, almost reverently, handed her all the documents. His birth certificate, his deceased grandfather's identification, the death certificate, the succession papers that Uncle Thomas had quietly helped him arrange weeks prior. The manager reviewed them one by one. Her expression grew more serious with each page. Who helped you with these documents? She asked, not harshly, but with genuine curiosity. A friend of my grandfather. He said it was important to do it properly. Miss Wang nodded slowly, then turned to her computer. The silence in the bank became thick, heavy. Even Mr. Tan had stopped smiling. He watched the computer screen with the expression of someone anticipating an easy victory. Miss Wang's fingers flew over the keyboard. Click, click, click. Account number 458219663, she murmured. Requires level 4 verification. One moment. She stood up and disappeared into her office. Seconds stretched like old chewing gum. Matthias could feel all eyes on him. Some with curiosity, others with anticipated pity. Mr. Tan drummed his fingers on the marble counter, each tap a reminder of his impatience and arrogance. When Miss Wang returned, her face was unreadable. The account exists, she simply said. Mr. Tan let out a short laugh. Of course it exists. With $3 and a broken button, surely. Miss Wang cleared her throat. To access the full balance, I need additional authorization. This type of account has special protocols. Protocols, Mr. Tan scoffed. For a child's account? Miss Wang, you're losing your professional touch. She ignored him. She made a call from the counterphone, spoke in a low voice, nodded several times, then hung up. The director will grant authorization in 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes were the longest of Matthias's life. He could feel the sweat on his palms, the weight of his backpack, the memory of his preparing weak copio that morning, Uncle Thomas's face, telling him, be brave. A sound from the computer. Miss Wang looked at the screen, her eyes widening. Only for a second, but it was enough. Well, Mr. Tan leaned over the counter. Enlighten us. How much does the boy have? $10? $20? Miss Wang turned the screen, and the world stopped. The numbers gleamed on the display like impossible stars, digit after digit after digit, an amount that made no sense, that defied all logic. Mr. Tan's laughter died in his throat like a bird hitting a window. The executive stopped smiling. Mr. Kumar, the guard, took an involuntary step forward, and Matthias, with eyes filled with tears that were not of sadness, but of something far more complex, whispered, That's my balance. Miss Wang nodded slowly. Yes, and there's more, much more. Mr. Tan had gone pale. His mouth opened and closed without emitting a sound, because on that screen there wasn't pocket change from sweets. There was the legacy of a man who had worked in silence all his life, who had invested wisely, who had died without boasting, and who had left everything, absolutely everything, for the grandson he barely knew, but in whom he trusted blindly. Matthias's tears finally rolled, not for the money, but because in that moment he understood that his grandfather, whom he never truly got to know, had loved him more than he ever imagined, and that the laughter of the arrogant always freezes before the truth. The air in Merlion Financial Plaza had become suffocating, not from lack of oxygen, but from the sheer weight of what had just been revealed. The numbers on the screen continued to glow, indifferent to the emotional chaos they had unleashed. Matthias couldn't tear his gaze away from those figures. 8 digits, 8 numbers that represented more money than he had ever imagined existing in the real world. His world had been one of counted coins, of saved cents, of nights calculating if there would be enough for bread the next day. This must be a mistake. Mr. Tan's voice shattered the silence like glass crashing to the floor. Miss Wang shook her head. Her professionalism was intact, but her gaze had changed as she looked at Matthias. It was no longer the distant look of a manager. It was the look of someone who had just witnessed something extraordinary. There's no error, Mr. Tan. The account is verified. The documents are legitimate. The boy is the legal beneficiary of all his grandfather's assets. Assets? Matthias blinked. What else is there besides the money? Miss Wang hesitated, looked at the screen, then at the boy. Properties, investments, shares. Your grandfather was a very careful man with his money. Matthias's legs trembled. He had to lean against the counter. Mr. Tan had regained some of his composure, but his face was tense. His eyes darted quickly, like an animal seeking an escape. This is ridiculous. His voice now controlled but sharp. A child cannot manage these types of accounts. It's legally impossible. Miss Wang opened her mouth to respond, but a new voice interrupted her. Technically, he's right. Everyone turned. An older man had emerged from one of the private offices. He dressed with the sobriety of one who doesn't need to assert authority. His name badge identified him as the branch director. Mr. David Lee approached with measured steps, his eyes assessing the situation with the precision of someone who had seen everything in decades of banking. A minor cannot directly access funds of this magnitude without an authorized legal guardian, he explained, addressing Matthias with a gentleness that brutally contrasted with Mr. Tan's treatment. Matthias's heart sank. But Uncle Thomas said that. Who is Uncle Thomas? Mr. David Lee asked. A friend of my grandfather. He helped me with the papers. He said that when I had everything, I could what? Exactly. Mr. Tan's voice held a barely contained edge of triumph. Boy, you've been fooled. Someone used you to get to this money, and now that it's exposed, that friend will probably disappear with everything. The words hit Matthias like punches. No, Uncle Thomas isn't like that. He couldn't do it. Or could he? We need to contact your immediate legal guardian, Mr. David Lee said firmly, but not unkindly. Who do you live with? With my Amma. Does she know you're here? Matthias lowered his gaze. The silence was sufficient answer. Mr. Tan approached Mr. David Lee with the familiarity of someone who shares social circles. David, you know the law. This money must be frozen until there's a complete investigation. For the boy's sake, of course. There was something in his tone, something that made Mr. Kumar, the guard, frown from his position. Mr. David Lee nodded slowly. Protocol requires the account to be temporarily blocked until all legal aspects are verified. It's for the beneficiary's protection. No. Matthias's voice came out stronger than he intended. My Amma is sick. She needs medicine. We need that money. And you'll have it, Mr. David Lee said. But it must be done correctly. Do you understand? If we do this wrong, you could lose everything. Tears threatened again, but Matthias held them back. He had learned from a young age that crying didn't solve problems. Action did. How long, he asked, his voice barely a whisper. With all the documentation in order. A few days, maybe a week. A week? Panic tightened his throat. I don't have a week. My Amma. Your Amma will be fine, mister. Tan interrupted with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm sure Uncle Thomas is taking very good care of her right now. There was something in those words, a dark insinuation that made Matthias's stomach twist. What do you mean? Nothing, boy. Just that it's curious how you appear here alone with documents that are mysteriously in order and no one else knows anything. Don't you find that convenient? Miss Wang intervened, her voice tense. Mr. Tan, are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating anything. He raised his hands in a gesture of studied innocence. I'm just observing, and I would recommend that Mr. David Lee report this to the relevant authorities to protect the child. Of course, Matthias felt the walls closing in around him. Authorities, investigation. He had only wanted to help his ama. He had only wanted to do the right thing. I have a better idea. The voice of Mr. Kumar, the security guard, surprised everyone. Mr. Tan glared at him. Nobody asked for your opinion. I'm giving it anyway. Mr. Kumar approached the group with quiet confidence. I know, Uncle Thomas. The silence was absolute. Excuse me? Miss Wang blinked. Thomas Villarreal. He worked at this bank for 30 years, retired a while ago. He's the most honest man I've ever known. Mr. Kumar looked directly at Matthias. If he helped you with those papers, you can be sure everything is in order. Coincidences, Mr. Tan scoffed. An employee defending another employee. Ex-employee, Mr. Kumar corrected. And it's not a coincidence. It's reputation. Something money can't buy, Mr. Tan. The verbal blow was subtle but effective. Mr. Tan clenched his jaw. Mr. David Lee watched the exchange with a thoughtful expression. Then he turned to Matthias. Where can I contact Uncle Thomas? Matthias pulled a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket with a handwritten number. He told me that if there was any problem, I should call this number. Mr. David Lee took the paper and disappeared into his office. The minutes that followed were agonizing. Matthias could feel Mr. Tan's gaze drilling into the back of his neck. The executives accompanying him whispered amongst themselves. When Mr. David Lee returned, his expression had completely changed. I spoke with Uncle Thomas. He's on his way. He's bringing additional documents and a notarized letter from your ama, authorizing you as a temporary representative for urgent medical matters. Matthias felt he could breathe again. He also confirmed something else, Mr. David Lee continued, now looking at Mr. Tan. That Matthias's grandfather was a founding partner of several companies, including some in which you, Mr. Tan, currently have interests. The color drained from Mr. Tan's face. That's impossible. Impossible? Mr. David Lee pulled out some papers he had just printed. According to these records, Matthias's grandfather, Mr. Gabriel Mendoza, was a silent investor in at least 3 major consortia. When he died, those shares passed into a trust for his grandson. Matthias listened as if they were talking about someone else. His grandfather, an investor? He had always believed he was just a humble laborer. Mr. Gabriel Mendoza was my grandfather, he whispered. He died when I was very small. I barely remember him. He was a wise man, Mr. David Lee said with genuine respect. He never boasted of his wealth. He lived modestly. He worked until his last day and saved all of this for you. But why did no one tell me anything? Your ama didn't know, Mr. David Lee explained. Mr. Gabriel handled everything with Uncle Thomas as his only confidant. In his will, he specified that he didn't want his grandson to grow up knowing he was rich. He wanted you to learn the value of work, the value of effort. Tears now streamed down Matthias's cheeks. He thought of all the mornings selling sweets, all the nights helping his ama. Every coin counted. His grandfather had known. He had planned everything. So, this is real? He murmured. Everything is real. It's very real, Mr. David Lee confirmed. And now, we need to protect you. Mr. Tan had taken several steps back. His arrogance had evaporated, replaced by something more dangerous. Cold calculation. If you'll excuse me, I have matters to attend to, he said abruptly, heading for the exit. Mr. Tan. Mr. David Lee's voice stopped him. One more thing. Those companies where you have interests, and where Matthias's grandfather was a partner, Matthias is now the majority shareholder in 2 of them. Mr. Tan froze solid. That means, Mr. David Lee continued, that this boy whom you scorned so much a few minutes ago is technically your boss in 2 of your most important projects. The silence that followed was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Mr. Tan turned slowly. His gaze towards Matthias was now of pure, barely contained venom. This isn't over, he said in a low voice, but every word dripped with menace. And he left. The executives followed clumsily, their heels clattering against the marble like accelerated heartbeats. When the door closed, Matthias collapsed into one of the waiting chairs. His entire body trembled. Miss Wang approached with a glass of water. Are you okay? I don't know, he admitted. None of this feels real. It is, said Mr. Kumar, who had remained close by all this time. And you just made a dangerous enemy. Enemy? Matthias looked at him with frightened eyes. I just came to check my balance. I know, boy. But now Mr. Tan knows that his businesses depend partly on you, and men like him don't forget humiliation. Mr. David Lee approached. His expression was serious, but not cruel. Mr. Kumar is right. Mr. Tan is powerful and doesn't like to lose control, but you're not alone. Uncle Thomas is on his way, and while you're under this roof, you're protected. And when I leave? Matthias asked in a small voice. No one responded. And in that silence, Matthias understood a terrible truth. Money not only opens doors, it also paints targets on backs. The bank door opened again. An elderly man with a steady gait and kind eyes hurried in. Matthias! Uncle Thomas! The boy ran to him, and the old man embraced him as a grandfather would his grandson. You did it, boy! You did it! I'm scared, Uncle Thomas. I know, but remember what I told you. Bravery isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing the right thing despite the fear. As they embraced, neither noticed the shadowy figure watching from a parked car across the street. Mr. Raymond Tan was not a man to accept defeat. And as he looked at the boy who had just wrested control of his companies from him, a cold smile spread across his face. This was just beginning, and he always played to win, no matter the cost. The door of the small HDB flat creaked, as it always did. That familiar sound Matthias had heard 1,000 times, but which now sounded different. Everything sounded different. The whole world had changed in a matter of hours, and yet, that door remained the same. Ah, Ma, I'm home. His voice trembled more than he intended. Uncle Thomas entered behind him, his presence firm but respectful. He knew this home. He had been there before, in the weeks prior, speaking with Ma, while Matthias sold sweets on the streets, preparing the groundwork, protecting them both. The elderly woman emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a worn cloth. Her eyes, clouded by cataracts that couldn't be operated on due to lack of money, narrowed as she saw the visitor. Thomas? Her voice was barely a whisper. Has something bad happened? Uncle Thomas shook his head, a sad smile curling his lips. No, Carmela. Something miraculous has happened. Matthias looked at his ama with new eyes. Carmela. He never thought of her by her given name. She had always just been Ma, the woman who raised him when his father died in a work accident and his mother disappeared from grief. The woman who had chosen dignified poverty rather than ask anyone for help. Ma. Matthias approached, taking her wrinkled hands. I need to tell you something. Carmela allowed herself to be guided to a kitchen chair. Uncle Thomas remained standing, a silent witness to what was about to unfold. Do you remember Papa? Matthias began, his voice cracking. Every day, my child. Every day. And do you remember his father? My grandfather Gabriel? Carmela's face tensed. A shadow of ancient pain crossed her features. Gabriel Mendoza was a good man, hardworking, honest. He died too young, like your father. She paused. Why do you ask? Matthias pulled the bank documents from his backpack. His hands trembled so much that the papers made a nervous rustling sound. Uncle Thomas gave me something a few weeks ago, an address, an account number. He said it was from Grandfather Gabriel. Carmela looked at Uncle Thomas with a confused expression. Thomas, what is he talking about? Gabriel made me promise something before he died, Carmela. The old man sat opposite her. He made me promise that when Matthias was strong enough, when he had proven his character, I would give him access to his inheritance. Inheritance? Carmela let out a bitter laugh. Gabriel was like us, poor. He worked from dawn till dusk barely to eat. That's what you believed. That's what everyone believed. Uncle Thomas pulled out a yellowed envelope. But Gabriel had a secret. A long time ago, when you didn't even know his son, Gabriel worked in construction, Uncle Thomas began. He was young, strong, intelligent, but above all, observant. Carmela listened motionless, her clouded eyes fixed on some point in the past. One day, while building a high-rise, he overheard the investors talking. They said they were going to abandon the project because they didn't have enough capital. Gabriel had saved every cent for years. Not much, but something. He approached them and offered his money. They laughed at him. Uncle Thomas continued, a laborer offering to invest? But Gabriel didn't give up. He showed them numbers, calculations he had made during sleepless nights. He demonstrated that the project was viable, and something in his determination convinced them. Matthias listened with a racing heart. This was his grandfather, a man he never knew, but whose blood ran through his veins. The building was a success. Gabriel received his share, and instead of spending it, he invested again, and again, and again. Uncle Thomas smiled. But he never changed his way of living. He kept working with his hands. He kept wearing the same clothes. He said money was a responsibility, not a reason for pride. Why did he never tell us? Carmela's voice trembled. When my son died, when we were left alone. Why not? Because by then Gabriel had also died. Uncle Thomas interrupted softly. He died 6 months before your father's accident. He left everything in a trust for Matias, with very specific instructions. I was the executor, and I had to wait. Wait for what? Carmela wiped away the tears that began to roll. For Matias to prove himself to be like his grandfather. Hardworking, humble, not corrupted by ease. Uncle Thomas looked at the boy with pride. Gabriel didn't want to raise a rich child. He wanted his grandson to know the value of effort, to understand that money is a tool, not an end. Matias felt something break in his chest. It wasn't pain, it was understanding. His grandfather had loved him in the hardest way, by letting him struggle. Today I went to the bank, he finally said, and I discovered that grandfather left us. He couldn't finish. The words choked in his throat. Uncle Thomas placed the bank documents on the table. $400,000 in cash, 3 properties, shares in 5 companies, and something else Matias doesn't even know yet. The silence that followed was so profound that one could hear the wall clock ticking seconds like heartbeats. That's impossible. Carmela touched the papers with trembling fingers, as if they might disintegrate. It's real, Ma. Matias took her hand. And there's more. Grandfather was a majority partner in companies where important, powerful people work. Powerful people? Carmela looked at him with sudden fear. What kind of people? It was Uncle Thomas who responded, his voice grave. The kind who don't like it when a humble boy suddenly has more power than they do. The shadow of danger. At the bank, I met a man, Matias continued. Mr. Raymond Tan. The name fell like a stone in still water. Carmela inhaled sharply. Raymond Tan, the businessman? You know him? It wasn't a question. Everyone knows him, son. He's in the news, donates to charities, smiles for the cameras. She paused. But people like us know another story. There are families who lost their businesses when they refused to sell to him. Workers who were silenced when they reported irregularities. He laughed at my, Ma. He humiliated me in front of everyone. He said I didn't belong in that place. Carmela's hands gripped her grandson's with a strength she didn't know she still possessed. And then he discovered you own shares in his companies. Uncle Thomas completed. Carmela paled. My God, Matias, that's dangerous. I know. The bank guard warned me. Mr. Tan isn't one to forget. The elderly woman stood up, unsteady. She walked to the kitchen window and gazed out at the street with eyes that didn't see well but had learned to detect dangers. We have to leave, she finally said. Take that money and disappear. No. Matias's voice was firm. Both elders looked at him, surprised. No? Carmela repeated. Son, these people take advantage of others being afraid. Matias stood up. Grandfather Gabriel didn't run when they laughed at him. He didn't hide when he succeeded. He lived with humility, but also with dignity. Uncle Thomas smiled. It was the smile of one who sees a child transform into a man in a matter of minutes. You sound exactly like him. I'm scared, Matias admitted, his voice cracking. But grandfather left this so I could have a better life, so Amma could have her eye surgery, so we could help others like us. Is there anything else you need to know? Uncle Thomas opened another envelope, this one older, sealed with wax. Gabriel gave me this with instructions to open it only when Matias decided what to do with the inheritance, run or fight. He opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter in shaky but clear script. It's from grandfather, Matias whispered. Uncle Thomas began to read. My dearest Matias, if you are reading this, it means you have discovered my secret and chosen to face it rather than flee. That tells me you are the man I hoped you would be. The money I leave you is not for you to live without working. It is for you to have the freedom to choose how to work. It is so that no one can humiliate you for being poor. It is so you can help others as I wished to help, but could not always. But more than the money, I leave you something more valuable. I leave you the truth. Those companies where you are a shareholder, I built them with my own hands, literally. I laid the bricks, I mixed the cement, and when I became a partner, I never forgot where I came from. That is why I included a clause in all contracts, that 30% of the profits should go to a fund for the workers' pensions, health, education for their children. Many partners hated that clause, but it was non-negotiable. Without it, I would sell my shares. I warn you, Matthias, there will be those who want you to sell those shares. They will offer you fortunes. They will threaten you. They will make you feel small. Do not yield. Because if you sell, those workers will lose their protection. And the powerful men will go back to doing what they have always done, enrich themselves at the expense of the weak. Be strong, be wise, and always remember, the true worth of a man is not in his bank account, but in how many lives he improves with his existence. Your grandfather, who loves you from wherever he is, Gabriel Mendoza. The silence that followed was interrupted only by the sound of Carmela sobbing. Matthias had tears streaming down his cheeks, but his eyes burned with determination. I understand now why Mr. Tan hates me, he said. It's not just because I humiliated him, it's because I'm an obstacle to his plans. Exactly, Uncle Thomas confirmed. If he convinces you to sell your shares, he can eliminate the labor protection clause. He can lay off workers, reduce salaries, maximize profits. How many workers depend on that clause? Uncle Thomas consulted other documents. Across all companies, nearly 2,000 families. 2,000? The number fell on Matthias like a physical weight. It wasn't just his life at stake. It was 2,000 families, fathers, mothers, children like him. I'm not going to sell, Matthias declared. Carmela approached. That means war, a war against very powerful people. I know. Ah, Ma. He hugged her. But grandfather chose me for this, and I won't disappoint him. As if the universe had been listening, Uncle Thomas's phone rang. It was Mr. David Lee, from the bank. Thomas, I need to speak with Matthias urgently. The speakerphone allowed everyone to hear. I'm here, Mr. David Lee. Matthias, I received a call from Mr. Raymond Tan's lawyers. They're offering to buy all your shares for, wait until you hear this, $15 million. Carmela gasped. It was almost double what they already had. That's a lot of money, she murmured. It's a trap, Matthias said immediately. How do you know? Mr. David Lee asked, impressed. Because if the shares were only worth $15 million, he wouldn't be so desperate to buy them. They're worth more, much more. Not for money, but for power. There was an admiring silence on the other end. You're smarter than many businessmen I know, boy. What should I tell them? Matthias looked at his ama, then at Uncle Thomas, then at his grandfather's letter. Tell them the shares are not for sale. Not today, not tomorrow, never. One could hear Mr. David Lee's smile. I'll gladly deliver the message. When he hung up, Uncle Thomas placed a hand on Matthias's shoulder. You've just declared war, boy. I know. Mr. Tan won't stop. He'll try everything. Intimidation, bribes, perhaps worse things. I know, Matthias repeated, but his voice didn't tremble. Carmela embraced her grandson, her tears wetting his hair. Your grandfather would be proud. So proud. I hope to be worthy of him, Ama. That night, as Matthias tried to sleep in his small bed, he heard voices in the kitchen. His Ama and Uncle Thomas spoke in whispers. I can't protect him from everything, Carmela. I know, but you're all we have. I've contacted some people, Gabriel's friends, people who owe him favors, but Mr. Tan has resources that we don't have. I know. A silence. Did we do right by telling him everything? Carmela asked. He's just a child. He's Gabriel Mendoza's grandson, and today he proved he has his same heart. Matthias closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. In his mind, he saw Mr. Tan's face, the cruel smile, the calculating eyes. 2,000 families. Those words echoed in his head like a drum, and as the moon illuminated his small room, Matthias made a silent promise. No matter what came, no matter how much fear he felt, he would not let those families be unprotected. His grandfather had trusted him, and he would not fail. But somewhere in the city, in an office with a panoramic view, Mr. Raymond Tan extinguished a cigar in a crystal ashtray. He rejected the offer? He asked his assistant. Yes, sir. A cold smile. Perfect. Now I can play without gloves. He made a call. When they answered, he simply said, activate Plan B. I want to know everything about that boy. Everything. And find some way to pressure him. He hung up. The war had begun, and Matthias didn't even know how brutal it could be. The morning arrived with a knock on the door that made Matthias jump out of bed. It wasn't a friendly knock, it was authoritative, insistent, the kind of knock that announced trouble. Carmela was already awake, her face pale as she peered through the window. There's a car outside, she whispered. Big, expensive. Matthias felt his stomach churn. He had spent the night almost sleepless, every street noise making him jump. And now, barely dawn, they were already here, whoever they were. The knock repeated, louder. "Should I open it?" Matthias asked, his voice firmer than he felt. "Wait." Carmela pulled out her old phone and dialed Uncle Thomas. Let him come first. But before she could complete the call, a voice penetrated the door. "Madame Carmela Mendoza, we do not mean harm. We come to offer help." The word help sounded strangely threatening coming from a stranger on the other side of a closed door. Matthias approached carefully. "Who are you?" "My name is Dr. Fernando Castillo. I am an ophthalmological surgeon from Prestige Medical Center. I have been sent to speak with your ama about eye treatment." Carmela and Matthias exchanged glances. No one, absolutely no one, knew about Ama's vision problems, except them. "And Uncle Thomas, who sent you?" Matthias asked, without opening the door. A pause, too long. "A benefactor who prefers to remain anonymous. But I assure you my intentions are medical and professional." "We don't open to strangers," Carmela said, her voice trembling but firm. "I understand perfectly." The doctor's voice sounded genuinely kind. "That's why I left my card under the door. You can verify my credentials, call the hospital, but I ask that you at least consider the offer. Complete cataract surgery at no cost, at the best private hospital in the city." A card slid under the door. Matthias picked it up. It was real. Thick paper, embossed letters. Dr. Fernando Castillo, head of ophthalmology, Prestige Medical Center. "I'll be back tomorrow at the same time," the voice continued. "If you decide to accept, I'll be waiting in my car. If not, I'll respect your decision and won't bother you again." Steps receding, an engine starting. Silence. Carmela collapsed into a chair. "It's him. It's Mr. Tan." "How do you know?" "Because men like him don't attack directly, son. They offer you gifts, make you feel grateful, and then when you're indebted, they collect what they really want." Minutes later, Uncle Thomas arrived, almost running. He heard everything as he examined the card. "It's real," he confirmed. "This doctor is one of the best. And Prestige Medical Center. Carmela. A surgery there would cost more than $30,000. "I don't care if it costs $1 million, she said. "I won't owe that man anything." "Ah, Ma, but your eyes. My eyes have lived many years like this. They can wait a little longer." She took Matthias's hands. "What can't wait is your safety. And accepting this would be putting a price on my health, a price he would collect from you." Uncle Thomas nodded in approval. "She's smarter than Mr. Tan calculated." "What do we do then?" Matthias asked. "Nothing. We don't respond. Silence is our answer." Uncle Thomas pulled out his phone. "But I'll make some calls. It's time for them to know they're not alone in this." The unexpected ally. That afternoon, as Matthias tried to concentrate on his schoolwork, Uncle Thomas's phone rang. The conversation was brief but intense. When he hung up, there was a strange light in his eyes. "We need to go to the kopitiam on the corner, now." "Why? What happened?" "Someone wants to meet you, someone important." 20 minutes later, they were sitting at a table at the back of the small kopitiam. Matthias clutched a cup of hot chocolate between his trembling hands. Carmela had insisted on accompanying them. The door opened, and a man in his 50s entered. He dressed elegantly, but without ostentation. His face was serious, but there was kindness in his eyes. "Thomas?" he asked, approaching. "Ricardo!" Uncle Thomas stood up, and they embraced like old friends. "Thank you for coming." The man named Ricardo Navarro sat down and looked at Matthias with an intensity that made him feel exposed. "So you're Gabriel's grandson?" "Yes, sir. You resemble him, not physically, but there's something in your eyes. That stubborn determination." He smiled. "My name is Ricardo Navarro. I am the CEO of Progress Industries, one of the companies where your grandfather was a shareholder." Matthias felt his heart skip a beat. "Do you work with Mr. Tan?" "I work in a company where Mr. Tan has minority shares. Yes, but I don't work for him. There's a difference." He leaned forward. "And I came to tell you something you need to know. 25 years ago, I was a production line worker. I earned the minimum wage. I had a sick son and no medical insurance to cover his treatment." Ricardo paused, his eyes moist. "Your grandfather was working on the construction of the factory's new warehouse. One day, he saw me crying during lunch. He asked me what was wrong. I told him about my son, about how he was going to die, because I didn't have money to save him." Matthias felt a lump in his throat. "What did he do?" "Something I'll never forget. He took an envelope from his pocket. It had cash, a lot of cash. He told me, This is an interest-free loan. Pay me back when you can, and if you can't, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that your son lives." Carmela stifled a sob. It was exactly something Gabriel would do. My son was saved, and when I wanted to return the money, Gabriel refused. He said, "Invest it in your education. Become someone who can help others as I helped you." So I studied at night while working during the day, and I climbed the ranks until I became a director. "That's why you're here," Matthias understood. "I'm here because I owe my life to your grandfather, and because I know what Mr. Tan is planning." The silence grew tense. "What is he planning?" Uncle Thomas asked. Ricardo looked around, making sure no one was listening. "Mr. Tan has called an extraordinary shareholders meeting for next week. He's going to propose the elimination of the labor protection clause that Gabriel implemented." "He can do that?" Matthias felt panic. "He can propose whatever he wants, but he needs the majority vote of shareholders. You have 40%, he has 35%. The rest is divided among minority shareholders. So, if the minority shareholders vote with him..." "Exactly. The clause disappears, and with it, the protection of 2,000 workers." Carmela took Matthias's hand. "What can we do?" Ricardo pulled a folder from his briefcase. "Fight, but not with money, with something more powerful, the truth." He opened the folder. Inside were documents, photographs, newspaper articles. "For years, I've documented everything Mr. Tan has done. Companies he destroyed, workers he unfairly fired, dirty deals. Nothing illegal. He's too smart for that, but everything morally questionable." "Why did you keep all this?" Uncle Thomas asked. "Because I knew that one day someone would have the courage to confront him. And when Gabriel died, and I learned that he had left everything to his grandson, I waited. I waited to see what kind of person you were, Matthias. And now I know you are worthy of your grandfather's legacy, and I am ready to help you." "At the meeting, the shareholders will vote," Ricardo explained. "If we present evidence that Mr. Tan only seeks personal benefit at the expense of the workers, some minority shareholders might change their vote." "Some?" Matthias asked. "Not all. Some shareholders only see numbers. They don't care about anything else. But others have a conscience, especially if they understand that Gabriel created that clause for a reason. We need the workers to tell their stories," Uncle Thomas said thoughtfully. "Testimonies of how that clause changed their lives." "Exactly." Ricardo smiled. "I can help organize it, but there's a problem." "What?" "Mr. Tan won't play fair. If he discovers we're organizing testimonies, he'll try to silence them. Intimidation, money offers, veiled threats of dismissal. Then we have to be fast," Matthias said, with determination, "and discreet." Ricardo extended his hand. "Are you sure about this, boy? Once we start, there's no turning back. Mr. Tan will see you as a real threat." Matthias looked at the outstretched hand, then at his ma. Her eyes clouded but full of pride. He looked at Uncle Thomas, his protector, his connection to the grandfather he never knew but who loved him, and he shook Ricardo's hand. "I'm sure." That night, Mr. Tan received a call from his informant at Prestige Medical Center. The doctor reports that the family rejected the offer. They didn't even respond. Mr. Tan drummed his fingers on the desk. "Interesting. The boy is more cunning than I thought. What do we do now?" "We increase the pressure. Tomorrow, I want you to contact the boy's school. Make a generous donation and suggest it would be appropriate for certain problematic students to be evaluated for absenteeism. But the boy hasn't missed classes yet. Not yet. But when he has to prepare for the shareholders' meeting, he'll start missing, and then we'll have a reason to involve Child Protective Services." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Sir, isn't that cruel? This is business, and in business, you either dominate or you are dominated." He hung up and looked out his office window. The city gleamed below like a chessboard made of lights. "Play your move, little Gabriel," he murmured. "Let me see what else you've learned from your grandfather." Meanwhile, in the small HDB flat, Matthias couldn't sleep. He reread his grandfather's letter again and again. There was something in the words that unsettled him. It wasn't what it said, it was what it didn't say. The true worth of a man is not in his bank account, but in how many lives he improves with his existence. How many lives had Gabriel improved? Ricardo was one. Surely there were more. He got up and went to the kitchen. Uncle Thomas had stayed overnight on the sofa, protecting them. He found him awake, looking at old photographs. "You can't sleep either?" the old man asked. "I was thinking about grandfather. How many people did he help?" Uncle Thomas smiled sadly. more than we'll ever know. It was his way. He helped in silence. Ricardo said there are more testimonies, more people. Grandfather helped, many more. Matias sat beside him. Uncle Thomas, why did grandfather never really know me? If he had so much money, why didn't he come to help us when Papa died? The question hung in the air like smoke. Uncle Thomas sighed deeply. Because Gabriel died 6 months before your father, Matias, in an accident on a construction site. He was supervising a building when a beam broke loose. The world stopped. What? He died saving another worker. He pushed him out of the way, and the beam crushed him. Tears welled up uncontrollably. He died. He died a hero. He died being Gabriel. He couldn't see someone in danger without helping. Matias cried. He cried for the grandfather he never knew, for the father he lost too young, for all the losses that marked his life. But amidst the pain, something ignited. His grandfather had died protecting someone, and now he had the opportunity to protect 2,000 families. It was his way of honoring him. It was his way of saying thank you to a man who loved him without knowing him. We're going to win this, Uncle Thomas, he said, wiping away his tears. For grandfather, for all those he helped, for all those who still need help. Uncle Thomas hugged him. We've already won, boy, because your grandfather created you exactly as he hoped, and that's worth more than all the money in the world. Outside, night covered the city, but in that small HDB flat, something more powerful than money and stronger than fear began to grow. It was hope, and no one, not even Mr. Raymond Tan, could buy or destroy it. The war had just begun, but Matias was no longer alone. Principal Mrs. Tan had never received such a generous donation. $50,000 for Republic Primary School. New equipment, books, computers, everything they had needed for years, and which the government never provided. And all courtesy of the Tan Foundation. She looked at the check on her desk as if it were a sleeping snake. Beautiful, tempting, dangerous. Because along with the check, an amicable suggestion had arrived from Mr. Tan's assistant. It would be prudent to review the attendance records of all students, especially those who might be facing complicated family situations. Matias Mendoza's name had been specifically mentioned. Mrs. Tan had been a principal for 20 years. She knew a bribe when she saw one, but she also knew her school was falling apart, that her students deserved better opportunities. What to do when the good of many requires sacrificing one? That question tormented her as she waited for Matias to arrive at her office. Matias felt the weight of all eyes when he was called by the loudspeaker during math class. Matias Mendoza, please report to the principal's office, his classmates murmured. Being called to the principal's office was never a good sign. He had never had disciplinary problems. His record was impeccable, but as he walked through the empty corridors, the echo of his footsteps resonating against the peeling walls, he knew this wasn't about grades. Principal Mrs. Tan awaited him with an unreadable expression. Sit down, Matias. He obeyed, his sweaty hands clutching his backpack strap. Did I do something wrong, Principal? Not exactly, she sighed. But it has come to my attention that you have missed classes recently. What? Matias blinked, confused. I haven't missed a single day this semester. According to these reports, she pointed to papers on her desk. You've missed 3 times in the last 2 weeks. That's a lie. His voice rose unintentionally. Can you check? Ask my teachers. I come every day. Mrs. Tan looked at him for a long moment. There was something in her eyes. Forgive me. Guilt. Matias. I've also received reports that your family situation might be affecting you, that you live alone with your ama, that she is sick, that you might not be receiving adequate supervision. Matias's heart began to pound violently. My ama takes perfect care of me. I take care of her. We're fine. Are you? The principal leaned forward. Because the Tan Foundation has offered to help. They can arrange medical treatment for your social assistance for you. All at no cost. There was the trap. Perfectly laid. We don't need charity from anyone. Matias stood up abruptly. Especially not from Mr. Raymond Tan. Mrs. Tan blinked, surprised. You know Mr. Tan? I know who he is, and I know what he's doing. Matias, sit down. Her voice hardened. I don't know what's going on, but those are serious accusations against a respected benefactor. Benefactor? Matias laughed without humor. Did he tell you how much money he donated? Did he tell you what he expects in return? Mrs. Tan's silence was sufficient answer. He's using me to pressure my family, Matias continued, the words gushing out. He wants us to seem unstable, problematic, so that Child Protective Services intervenes, so that I can't… He stopped. He had already said too much. You can't what? Mrs. Tan asked. Matthias shook his head. Nothing. Can I leave? No. Mrs. Tan stood up. I'm going to call your ama, and we're going to clear this up now. 30 minutes later, Carmela entered the office, leaning on Uncle Thomas's arm. Her clouded eyes searched for her grandson. Matthias, are you all right? I'm fine. Ama. Mrs. Tan observed the elderly woman with a calculating expression. Madame Mendoza, I need to ask you some questions about Matthias's situation. Ask them, Carmela said, with dignity. I have nothing to hide. Is it true that you have health problems that hinder your ability to care for your grandson? I have cataracts. My vision isn't perfect, but I can perfectly care for my grandson. And financially, how do you subsist? It was Uncle Thomas who responded. That's no longer a problem. Mrs. Tan looked at him with curiosity. Excuse me? Matthias inherited from his grandfather, Uncle Thomas explained carefully. Not just money, a complete legacy, shares in important companies. Mrs. Tan's expression changed completely. Shares in what companies? In several, including some where Mr. Raymond Tan has interests. The color drained from the principal's face. Oh my God, she whispered. This is manipulation, Uncle Thomas completed. Mr. Tan is using the school as an instrument of pressure because Matthias has voting power over decisions that affect Mr. Tan's businesses. Mrs. Tan collapsed into her chair. I didn't know. The assistant just said it was a needy family, that we should keep an eye on the child for his own good. And you believed him because it came with a $50,000 check, Carmela said. Not harshly, just with sadness. Our school is desperate, Mrs. Tan defended weakly. The children need. What children need is honesty, Matthias interrupted. Not benefactors who buy allegiances. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of Mrs. Tan's phone. She looked at the screen and paled even more. It's Mr. Tan's assistant. He's asking if I've spoken with you already. What are you going to tell him? Uncle Thomas asked. Mrs. Tan looked at Matthias. She really looked at him. She saw a boy who sold sweets to help his ama, who never missed classes, who studied harder than many others, who carried responsibilities no child should carry. And she made a decision. I'm going to tell him that everything is in order, that Matthias is an exemplary student, that there's no reason to worry. Matthias felt he could breathe again. And the money? Carmela asked. I'll return it. I can't accept bribes, not even bribes disguised as charity. Mrs. Tan stood up. I'm sorry, Matthias. I let need cloud my judgment. I understand, he said. But there's another way. Everyone looked at him. My grandfather left money to help others, to improve lives. What if I make a donation to the school? Without conditions, just because it's the right thing to do. Mrs. Tan opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes filled with tears. That would be wonderful, but it has to be anonymous, Uncle Thomas added quickly. If Mr. Tan discovers Matthias is using his money for public good, he'll intensify his attacks. Of course, Mrs. Tan nodded. I'll be discreet. That afternoon, at the HDB flat, Ricardo Navarro arrived with urgent news. Mr. Tan moved the date of the shareholders' meeting, he announced. It's no longer next week. It's the day after tomorrow. What? Matthias felt panic. Can he do that? Technically, yes. And he did it because he discovered we were organizing worker testimonies. He wants to vote before we can present them. Then we lost? Carmela sank into a chair. Not necessarily. Ricardo smiled. Because I just received a call from someone who wants to help. Who? Miss Wang, the bank manager. Matthias remembered the woman who had witnessed his humiliation and his triumph. Why would she want to help? Because Mr. Tan also pressured her, Ricardo explained. He asked her for confidential information about your accounts. She refused. He threatened to close all his corporate accounts at the bank if she didn't cooperate. And what did she do? She reported it to Mr. David Lee, and now they're investigating Mr. Tan for attempting to illegally access private financial information. Uncle Thomas whistled softly. That's serious. Very serious. But it's not enough to stop the meeting. We need something more. Ricardo pulled out his phone. That's why I contacted an old friend, an investigative journalist. I've been feeding him information about Mr. Tan's practices for years. He never had enough to publish. Until now. What changed? Matthias asked. You changed. Your story. A humble boy inheriting a hard-working grandfather's fortune, confronting a powerful businessman to protect vulnerable workers. It's the perfect story. I don't want to be famous, Matthias said immediately. I don't want attention. You don't need to be. The story can be told without fully revealing your identity, but the threat of publication could make Mr. Tan back down, or it could enrage him further, Carmela pointed out. Everyone fell silent. It's a risk, Ricardo admitted, but standing still is also a risk. That night, Miss Wong arrived at the HDB flat with a box of files. I shouldn't be doing this, she said as she entered. I could lose my job, my banking license, everything. Then why are you doing it? Matias asked. Miss Wong looked at him with tired eyes. Because 15 years ago, I was a teller at a small branch. I made a mistake, an honest mistake, but the missing money came out of my account. $4,000 I didn't have. Matias was starting to see the pattern. My grandfather, your grandfather was in line that day. He heard everything. When I was fired, he waited for me outside, gave me the money, said it was a loan, to pay it back when I could, to use the experience to grow. Another life touched by Gabriel Mendoza. I never could pay him back. He died before I could. Miss Wong wiped away a tear. But he gave me something more valuable. He gave me a second chance. I studied. I became a manager, and now I can help his grandson. She opened the box. These are all of Mr. Tan's financial movements at our bank over the past 10 years. All legal, all recorded. But it tells a story. Ricardo took the documents and began to review them. His eyes widened. This is incredible. Transfers to offshore accounts. Payments to shell companies. It's not illegal, but it's ethically questionable. And there's more. Miss Wong pulled out another folder. 6 months ago, Mr. Tan tried to buy shares in Progress Industries through an intermediary to hide that he was consolidating power. That violates shareholder transparency rules, Uncle Thomas said. Exactly. If this comes to light at the meeting, the other shareholders will see that he's not trustworthy. Matias felt his head spinning. All these people, all these individuals helping because his grandfather had helped them first. How many people did grandfather help? He asked aloud. Everyone looked at each other. We don't know, Uncle Thomas admitted. He never kept count. He just helped. But now they're all returning, Ricardo said with a smile. Like a silent army. Uncle Thomas's phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? The voice on the other end was distorted, clearly using a modifier. I have information about Mr. Raymond Tan that you need to hear. Everyone tensed. Who are you? Uncle Thomas asked. Someone who worked for him. Someone who saw too much. Someone who can no longer remain silent. Why call now? Because I heard about a boy who is fighting him. And if that boy has the courage to face Raymond Tan, then I too must have it. What information do you have? Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow alone at 9 p.m. at the old port warehouse. Just Uncle Thomas and the boy. That sounds like a trap, Ricardo said. It could be, Uncle Thomas admitted. But what if it's not? It's too risky, Miss Wong insisted. Matias looked at the phone, thought of his grandfather, of all the people he had helped, of how they were all returning to help him. And if there was one more person, one person with crucial information. I'm going, Matias finally said. No, Carmela tried to stop him. I have to. Ma. Grandfather was never afraid to help others. I can't be afraid now. Then I'm coming with you, Ricardo said. Me too, Miss Wong added. No, Uncle Thomas stopped them. The voice said only the two of us. If more of us go, they might not show up. Or worse, they might get scared, and we lose the opportunity. Then I'll go armed, Ricardo said. No. Matias looked at him. No weapons, no violence. We are not like Mr. Tan. We do things the right way. Everyone looked at him with a mixture of pride and terror, because in that moment Matias sounded exactly like Gabriel, and that was what frightened them most, because Gabriel had died a hero, and no one wanted history to repeat itself. The clock struck 8:40 p.m. when Matias and Uncle Thomas got into the old man's car. Carmela waved them off at the door with an embrace that lasted too long. Be careful, my child, she whispered, her hands trembling as she touched her grandson's face. You don't know how much I thank Thomas for making me sign all those papers weeks ago. Otherwise you couldn't do any of this legally. There it was. The answer, so simple, that had been waiting to be said. It was precaution, Carmela, Uncle Thomas said softly. Gabriel taught me to always be prepared. I'll be back. Ma, I promise. But as the car pulled away from the small HDB flat, Matias wasn't sure he could keep that promise. The road to the old Pasir Panjang terminal was long. The streets grew darker, emptier, more menacing with each kilometer. Streetlights flickered like candles about to extinguish. Are you scared? Uncle Thomas asked, breaking the silence. Matthias wanted to lie. He wanted to say no, that he was fine, that he was strong like his grandfather, but he couldn't. "I'm terrified," he admitted, his voice cracking. "Uncle Thomas, what if it's a trap? What if Mr. Tan is waiting for us? What if—" The words caught in his throat, because behind all those what-ifs lay a deeper, darker fear. What if it wasn't enough? What if, despite everything, he couldn't protect those 2,000 families? What if he disappointed his grandfather? "Matthias, look at me." Uncle Thomas pulled the car to the side of the road. The boy turned, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Gabriel was also scared. Many times. The day he offered his first money to those investors who laughed at him, he was trembling. The day he saved that worker and died doing it, he was also scared. But do you know what he did with that fear? What? He used it as fuel. Fear reminded him that what he was doing mattered, that things worth doing are always scary. Matthias wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "And if I fail, then you will have failed having tried, which is 1,000 times more honorable than never having tried." The car started again, but something had changed in Matthias's chest. It wasn't that the fear disappeared, it simply no longer controlled him. The old port was a graveyard of industrial dreams. Rusted warehouses loomed like fallen giants. The smell of salt and abandonment filled the air. Warehouse number 7 was at the end of the pier. Its metal door hung from broken hinges, creating shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. "We're early." Uncle Thomas checked his watch. 10 minutes. They parked at a distance. From there, they could see the warehouse entrance without being easily seen. The minutes dragged like snails. 8:50 p.m. 8:55 p.m. At exactly 9 o'clock, a figure emerged from the shadows of the warehouse. Not from outside, he was already inside, waiting. "It's time," Uncle Thomas said. They got out of the car. Each step towards the warehouse echoed against the damp concrete. Matthias could hear his own heart pounding so loud he thought it would betray his presence for miles. The figure inside the warehouse became visible as they approached. It was a middle-aged man. His face was partially obscured by a cap and the raised collar of his jacket. "You came," he said. His voice, now undistorted, sounded tired, broken. "Here we are," Uncle Thomas responded. "Now show yourself." The man hesitated, then slowly removed his cap. Uncle Thomas inhaled sharply. Mr. Louis Wee. Mr. Louis Wee had been Mr. Tan's chief accountant for almost a decade. Matthias recognized him from photographs in business magazines, always by Mr. Tan's side at corporate events. Smiling, efficient, loyal. But the man in front of them bore little resemblance to those photographs. He had deep circles under his eyes. His hands trembled. He had lost weight. "I don't deserve you to come," Louis said, his voice cracking. "I don't deserve anything, except punishment." "Why are you here?" Matthias asked. "Why now?" Louis collapsed against a rotten wooden crate. "Because I can't live with this anymore. Because for years I helped Raymond Tan destroy lives, to steal, to deceive. All legal, all within the limits of the law. But morally it was monstrous." "What exactly did you do?" Uncle Thomas approached cautiously. "Everything." Louis laughed without humor. "I moved money to offshore accounts to avoid taxes. I created shell companies to hide the true ownership of shares. I manipulated accounting records to justify mass layoffs." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. "Here's everything. 10 years of tax fraud, evasion, manipulation. None of this will send him to jail. He's too smart for that. But it will destroy his reputation, and without a reputation, the other shareholders will never vote with him." Matthias looked at the small device as if it were a bomb. "Why are you giving us this? What do you gain?" "Nothing." Louis looked at him with moist eyes. "I already resigned. Raymond threatened me. He said that if I spoke, he would destroy my family, and he probably will. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror again." "Did you know my grandfather?" Matthias asked suddenly. Louis shook his head. "Never personally, but Raymond used to talk about him. With hatred, with envy. He used to say that Gabriel Mendoza was a hypocrite who played the saint while playing the same game as everyone else. But I investigated. I read every transaction Gabriel made. And do you know what I discovered? That every dollar he earned clean. Every investment was transparent. Every deal was honest. He was the opposite of Raymond, in every sense." Louis wiped away his tears. "And when I learned that his grandson was fighting Raymond, I knew I had to do something. Something good, for the first time in years. Is there anything else we need to know? Luis stood up, his expression now urgent. Raymond has a plan for tomorrow, for the meeting. We know, Uncle Thomas said. He's going to propose eliminating the labor protection clause. Not just that. Luis shook his head. He's going to present a false financial evaluation. He'll say the companies are in crisis because of the clause, that if it's not eliminated, there will be mass layoffs anyway. He'll make it seem like eliminating it is the lesser evil. Matias felt the ground move beneath his feet. And the shareholders will believe him? The numbers will be convincing. I prepared them before I resigned. Luis lowered his gaze in shame. I manipulated projections, exaggerated losses, minimized profits, all to justify the elimination of the clause. But that's accounting fraud. Yes, but it's my word against an empire of lawyers. Luis extended the USB drive. That's why you need this. The original files are here. The real numbers show that the companies are profitable, that the clause isn't causing any crisis. Uncle Thomas took the device with trembling hands. Are you sure about this, Luis? Once we use this, there's no turning back for you. There's no turning back anyway. He smiled sadly. My family is already gone. My wife left me when I resigned. She said I was a coward. And she's right. I was a coward for 10 years. At least now I can be brave once. It was then that it happened. Matias had been holding it in all night, all week, from the moment he walked into that bank, and his life changed forever. He broke. Not with silent sobs, not with dignified tears. He broke completely, fell to his knees on the dirty warehouse floor, and cried like the child he was. The child who sold sweets on the streets, the child who counted coins to buy bread, the child who never asked for this. I can't, he sobbed. I can't do this. I'm just a child. Why did grandfather leave me this? Why me? Uncle Thomas knelt beside him, holding him as he cried. Because you were the only one who could do it, boy. The only one with heart enough. I'm 11 years old, Matias cried through his tears. I'm supposed to be playing, studying, being a child, not fighting millionaires, not carrying the future of 2,000 families. All the pressure, all the fear, all the responsibility he had been carrying burst like a broken dam. Luis watched in silence, his own tears rolling. I'm sorry, he finally said. I'm sorry a child has to clean up the mess that adults like me created. Matias cried, until there were no more tears, until only the trembling emptiness of having expelled all the contained pain remained. When he could finally speak, his voice was barely a whisper. Do you really think I can win? Uncle Thomas looked him in the eyes. I believe your grandfather chose you because he saw something in you that you don't even see yet. He saw the kind of man you will be, and that man doesn't give up. But now I'm just a scared child. The greatest heroes always started out as scared children, Luis said. The difference is that they kept going despite the fear. Matias stood up slowly. His legs trembled. His face was stained with tears and dirt, but there was something different in his eyes. He was no longer the boy who entered the bank seeking a balance. He was Gabriel Mendoza's grandson, and that meant something. Back in the car, Uncle Thomas connected the USB drive to his laptop. The files opened one after another. Years of evidence, documents, emails, transactions. It was a nuclear bomb. With this, we don't just save the clause, Uncle Thomas said. We destroy any credibility Mr. Tan has. Will it be enough? Matias asked, his voice still hoarse from crying. It will be more than enough. Uncle Thomas's phone rang. It was Ricardo. Any news? He asked anxiously. News? No, we have an arsenal. Uncle Thomas smiled. Gather everyone tomorrow. Miss Wong, Mr. David Lee, the workers you could contact, and prepare the media. This is going to be historic. When he hung up, he looked at Matias. Your grandfather would be proud. Matias thought of Gabriel, of the man he never knew but who loved him unconditionally. The man who died saving another. The man who built an empire in silence just to protect the weak. I hope so, he finally said. But even if I'm not, I'm going to try with everything I have. That night, neither of them slept. They reviewed every document, prepared every argument, organized every piece of evidence. In the early morning, Carmela prepared kopi and sweet bread. Her hands trembled as she served. My child became a man in a week, she said with tears in her clouded eyes. Your grandfather would be... She couldn't finish. She simply hugged Matias and cried. Ricardo arrived before dawn with Miss Wong and Mr. David Lee. The media will be there, Ricardo informed. 3 news channels, 2 major newspapers. This will be public. Good, Matias said. Let the whole world see who Raymond Tan really is. Miss Wong placed bank documents on the table. I also have this. Transfers he made this week. He tried to move funds to appear more solvent before the meeting. It's market manipulation. He's getting desperate, Mr. David Lee observed. A desperate man is dangerous. I know. Matthias looked out the window. The sun was beginning to rise. But a child with nothing to lose is even more dangerous. Uncle Thomas smiled. There it was, Gabriel's fire burning in his grandson. At 7 a.m., Matthias's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speakerphone. Yes, Mr. Tan's voice was cold as ice. Last chance, boy. Withdraw from the meeting. Sell the shares. I'll double the offer. $30 million. Today. Now. Everyone in the room looked at Matthias. The child who days ago just wanted to check his balance to help his... Ma. The child who had cried in terror in an abandoned warehouse. The child who carried the weight of 2,000 families on his shoulders. He took a deep breath. Mr. Tan, there's something you need to understand about my grandfather. He didn't give up when they laughed at him. He didn't run when things got tough. And I am his grandson. That's a no. That's a no. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Matthias clenched his fist. See you at the meeting, and may the best man win. Oh boy, Mr. Tan laughed. I've already won. You just don't know it yet. And he hung up. The silence in the room was tense. What do you think he meant by that? Miss Wong asked. It doesn't matter, Matthias said, though his heart pounded with renewed fear. Because we also have surprises. Uncle Thomas placed a hand on his shoulder. It's time. Matthias stood up, straightened his clothes, looked at each person in that room, people Gabriel had touched. People who now protected him. We're gonna win this, he said. For grandfather. For all the people he helped. For all those who still need help. And as they left the small HDB flat for the meeting that would decide everything, Matthias felt something. It wasn't the absence of fear. It was something more powerful. It was purpose. And with that, he could move mountains, or at least defeat an arrogant millionaire. The final war was about to begin, and Matthias was ready. The boardroom of Progress Industries resembled a Roman Colosseum. Rows of chairs faced a long table where the main shareholders would sit. News cameras were already positioned. Journalists whispered. The air vibrated with anticipation. Mr. Raymond Tan was already seated in his place, surrounded by 5 lawyers. His suit was impeccable, his smile confident. When Matthias entered with Uncle Thomas, Ricardo, and Miss Wong, that smile widened. Ah, our little shareholder has arrived, he said loudly for all to hear. I thought you'd reconsider. Matthias walked directly to his assigned seat. He didn't respond. His silence was more powerful than any words. The minority shareholders arrived. 18 people representing the remaining 25%. Nervous faces, calculating eyes. They knew that today their vote would decide the fate of thousands. Mr. David Lee, as the neutral bank representative, acted as moderator. We officially begin the extraordinary shareholders meeting. He announced the item to be voted on. Elimination of the labor protection clause implemented by Mr. Gabriel Mendoza. A murmur ran through the room. Mr. Tan stood up with studied elegance. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know the current economic crisis. Companies must adapt or die, he began, his voice soft but firm. The clause that Gabriel Mendoza implemented was noble in its time, but today it is unsustainable. He gave a signal. One of his assistants projected graphs onto the screen. As you can see, our profits have fallen by 18% in the last quarter. Labor costs represent 70% of our expenses. If we don't act now, we will have to close 2 plants, laying off 500 people. The minority shareholders murmured with concern. That's why I propose eliminating the clause not out of greed, but for survival. It's about saving 800 jobs at the cost of reducing benefits for 100. Cruel mathematics, but necessary. He sat down. Some shareholders nodded. The numbers seemed irrefutable. Mr. David Lee looked at Matthias. Would you like to respond? Matthias stood up. His legs trembled. All eyes on him. Cameras recording. The weight of the world on a child's shoulders. Those numbers are lies, he said simply. Mr. Tan scoffed. Excuse me? Lies, Matthias repeated. Louder. Manipulated, fabricated, accounting fraud. That is a serious accusation. One of the lawyers stood up. It is. Matthias pulled out the USB drive Luis had given them. That's why I have proof. Ricardo connected the device to the projector. Files began to appear. These are the real numbers of Progress Industries, he explained. Not an 18% drop, but a 12% growth. No crisis, but record profit. Mr. Tan paled. Where did you get that? From your accountant. Matias looked him directly in the eyes. Mr. Luis Wee, the man who manipulated numbers for you for 10 years. The man who could no longer live with the lie. Luis was fired for incompetence. Mr. Tan intervened quickly. He's resentful, vengeful. Then are these emails also false? Miss Wang stood up, displaying communications. This is where you specifically ordered him to exaggerate losses, minimize profits, all with dates and digital signatures. The silence was absolute. And these movements to offshore accounts, Mr. David Lee continued, who had been reviewing the files. Tax evasion, concealment of assets, market manipulation. Mr. Tan stood up abruptly. This is a conspiracy. A jealous child and his puppets trying to… Puppets. The voice cut through the air like a knife. Everyone turned. Carmela Mendoza entered the room, leaning on Mr. Kumar, the bank security guard's arm. I am Carmela Mendoza, she said, her voice trembling but firm. Widow of Gabriel Mendoza's son, Matias's ama. Mr. Tan looked at her with disdain. Madam, this is a corporate meeting, not a family drama. You're right. Carmela took a step forward. It's not family drama. It's justice. She pulled papers from her handbag. Weeks ago, I was offered free surgery for my eyes, courtesy of the Tan Foundation. I rejected the offer because I knew it was a bribe. It was genuine charity, Mr. Tan protested. Like your donation to my grandson's school. Carmela smiled sadly. The one that came with the condition of reporting him to Child Protective Services. I have the recordings. The principal provided them voluntarily. Matias looked at his ama in astonishment. He hadn't known she had obtained that. You don't fight with numbers, Mr. Tan, Carmela continued. You fight with fear, with blackmail, with manipulation. My father-in-law, Gabriel Mendoza, fought with honesty, with hard work, with love, and in the end, love always wins. She turned to the minority shareholders. Each of you is here because Gabriel helped you at some point. He invested when no one else would. He believed in projects others rejected. He gave you opportunities. Several shareholders lowered their gaze. It was true. And now his grandson asks you to honor that memory, to protect the workers as Gabriel would have wanted, not out of sentimentality, but out of principle. Carmela returned to her seat, but not before kissing Matias's forehead. The boy had tears in his eyes. His ama, his fragile ama, had been a lion. Mr. Tan was breathing heavily. Everything was falling apart. But he had one last card. Very emotional, he said with a venomous voice. But there's something none of you know. He gave a signal. Another of his lawyers projected documents. Gabriel Mendoza has outstanding debts, personal loans he made to workers that were never repaid. They amount to $4 million. As here, Matias must pay them. Uncle Thomas tensed, and coincidentally, Mr. Tan continued with a triumphant smile. I bought all those debts. I consolidated them, and now I'm collecting them. Matias owes me $4 million today, or I'll have to seize his shares to cover the debt. The heir left the room. Is that legal? One of the shareholders murmured. Completely. Mr. Tan crossed his arms. So, little Matias, you decide. Do you sell me the shares voluntarily for $30 million? Or do I take them, by seizure, to cover $4 million of debt? You choose. The silence was sepulchral. Matias looked at the documents. They were real. His grandfather had lent money to needy people. He never expected to be repaid. And now, that became a weapon against his grandson. You have 5 minutes to decide, Mr. Tan said, looking at his watch with satisfaction. Matias closed his eyes, thought of his grandfather, of all the people he had helped, of how that love now returned like an army. And then he understood. He opened his eyes and smiled. You don't have to seize anything, Mr. Tan. Excuse me, those debts have already been paid. Mr. Tan blinked in confusion. Ricardo stood up. 3 days ago, when we learned of this plan, we contacted every person who owed money to Gabriel. We offered them an option. If they could pay even a part, they should. If they couldn't, we would cover the debt on their behalf. Do you know what happened? Miss Wang continued. Every person, every single one, insisted on paying. Some sold things, others borrowed from relatives. Workers pooled money together. Mr. David Lee projected new documents. In 72 hours, $3.9 million was raised. The remaining $100,000 was covered by an anonymous donation. From whom? Mr. Tan asked, his voice cracking. From me, a voice said from the entrance. Everyone turned. Louis Wee stood at the door. I sold my house, my car, everything, and paid the missing $100,000. It's the least I could do after years of helping to destroy what Gabriel built. Mr. Tan staggered. This is justice, Matthias completed. Yes, it is. Mr. David Lee stood up. There are no more arguments. It's time to vote. Elimination of the Labor Protection Clause. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Tan raised his hand. He looked at the minority shareholders. No one else raised a hand. Not a single person. Those against? Matthias raised his hand, and one by one, all the other shareholders did the same. 18 hands. Plus Ricardo, plus Miss Wong, plus Carmela from her seat. The motion is rejected unanimously, Mr. David Lee announced. The Labor Protection Clause remains. Applause erupted, not only from those present. The doors opened, and dozens of workers who had been waiting outside entered, applauding, crying, embracing. Mr. Tan looked at the scene, his face disfigured. He had completely lost. There's one more thing, Mr. David Lee said. Due to the evidence of fraud presented today, the bank is freezing all of Mr. Raymond Tan's corporate accounts until there is a complete investigation. And the Inland Revenue Authority of Singapore has already been notified, Miss Wong added, about tax evasion. And the media has the whole story. Ricardo pointed to the journalists. By tomorrow, the whole country will know what kind of man he really is. Mr. Tan looked at Matthias, no longer with arrogance, but with something worse, with fear. You ruined my life, boy. Matthias approached. He no longer trembled. He was no longer afraid. No, you ruined your own life when you decided that money was worth more than people. My grandfather taught me something different. He taught me that true success is measured in how many lives you improve, not in how much money you accumulate. Pretty words, Mr. Tan spat. Let's see how long they last in the real world. They already lasted 70 years in my grandfather, Matthias responded. And they'll last another 70 inches me. Mr. Tan left the room, followed by his lawyers, defeated, humiliated, alone. But Matthias felt no joy in that, only sadness at seeing what greed does to souls. The small neighborhood park had been completely renovated. New benches, playgrounds, planted trees, and in the center, a bronze plaque. Gabriel Mendoza Park, in honor of a man who built empires, but never forgot his humanity. His legacy lives on in every life he touched. Matthias read the plaque for the 100th time. Beside him, Carmela looked with new eyes, eyes that were no longer clouded. The surgery had been a success. I can see it, my child, she said, tears in her clear eyes. I can see the colors, the flowers, your face. They embraced. Ricardo approached with documents. The companies reported the most profitable quarter in 5 years. The workers are happy. Productivity is up, and all thanks to maintaining the clause. Not thanks to me, Matthias said. Thanks to grandfather. Thanks to both, Miss Wong corrected, who had also joined them. Gabriel planted the tree. You protected it. Louis Wee arrived in simple clothes, but with a calm face. I found a job, he announced. Nothing glamorous. An accountant at a small family business. But it's honest, and I can sleep at night. I'm glad. Matthias shook his hand. Principal Mrs. Tan arrived with a group of students. The children wanted to meet the anonymous benefactor who donated $100,000 to the school. There's no anonymous benefactor here, Matthias said, winking. Just a beautiful park everyone can enjoy. The children ran to the playgrounds. Their laughter filled the air. Mr. Kumar, the guard, watched from afar with a proud smile. Uncle Thomas sat on a bench next to Carmela. We did it, old friend, he whispered, looking at the sky. Your grandson is everything you hoped for and more. That night, in the small HDB flat that Matthias refused to leave, despite being able to buy mansions, he opened a final envelope Uncle Thomas had given him. Gabriel gave me this to give to you when everything was over, the old man explained. He said you would know when it was time. Matthias opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a letter, but also an old photograph, young Gabriel holding a baby. On the reverse, a date and a note. Matthias, 1 day old. My reason for building better tomorrows. The letter read, My dearest grandson, if you are reading this, it means you survived the storm, that you faced the wolves and did not let them devour you. I am proud of you in ways that words cannot express, but I want you to know something important. I did not leave you that money to make you rich. You were already rich. rich in character, in goodness, in love. I left it to you as a tool to build the world we dreamed of, but that my generation could not complete. Every dollar you earn, use it to uplift someone else. Every victory you achieve, share it with those who helped you. Every time you feel alone or scared, remember, you are not alone. I am with you. Your Father is with you. All those you loved and who loved you are with you. True legacy is not measured in money. It is measured in smiles, in tears of joy, in children who can play in safe parks, in families who can sleep without fear of losing their livelihood. You are my legacy, Matias, and you are already perfect. With all my love, your grandfather, Gabriel. P.S. Tell your ama that I always admired her, that she raised the best son, and that now she has raised the best grandson, that the next generation is in good hands. Matias cried, but these were different tears. They were tears of peace, of closure, of love that transcended death. Carmela hugged him. Uncle Thomas placed his hand on his shoulder. And somewhere, beyond time and space, Gabriel Mendoza smiled. 10 years later, an 8-year-old boy was selling sweets on a street corner. His clothes were worn but clean. His eyes shone with determination. A young man of 21 stopped in front of him. How much do they cost? $1 each, sir. The young man bought the entire box. What do you plan to do with that money? Help my mother. She's sick. The young man smiled. He took a card from his wallet. Here, call this number tomorrow. I have a scholarship program for working children. We'll help you with school and with your mother. The boy took the card with incredulous eyes. Why are you helping me? Because someone helped me once and taught me that love multiplies when you share it. The young man walked away. In his wallet, an old photograph of a man he never knew, but who loved him unconditionally. Matias Mendoza walked the streets where he once sold sweets, but now he wasn't selling sweets. He was planting hope, and the harvest would be eternal. The companies Gabriel built flourished under Matias's direction. The Mendoza Foundation awarded 1,000 scholarships annually to working children. Carmela, with her clear, bright eyes, personally visited each case, ensuring no child went through what Matias had. Uncle Thomas Villarreal, now 90 but with an unbreakable spirit, gave talks in schools, telling Gabriel's story. True success, he always said, is not measured in bank accounts. It is measured in transformed lives. Mr. Raymond Tan was prosecuted for tax evasion and fraud. He lost his empire, lost his reputation, lost everything. In a twist that surprised many, Matias offered him a humble job in one of the company's warehouses. My grandfather believed in second chances, he told him. Raymond rejected the offer. Pride was his final defeat. And so, the legacy of Gabriel Mendoza continued, not in buildings bearing his name, not in marble statues, but in every child who could study, in every family who could eat, in every worker who could live with dignity.